Hello, my name is Memory Glenn and I currently live in Christiansburg, Virginia. I grew up in North Carolina. I was dedicated in Johnny Goder's church in Durham, North Carolina. So my roots are very southern, as you can tell. When I was approached with this opportunity to share my testimony, I struggled really to pick something in, my life that to really edify the Lord about and to share and testify about, because, He's done so much. But in 2019, when my mother passed away in October, I told her that I would share her testimony whenever the opportunity presents itself. And in the time after that, with my job, I was on the phone a lot and doing customer service right after she passed away, and I had an opportunity to share my testimony because people would be like, "Oh, your name is Memory. Is there like something?" And so I would tell them the story. The short version, because it's kind of long. So when my mother and father decided they wanted to have children, they did a lot of trying and nothing came of it. And so they went to the doctor and found out that there was a medical allergy of some sort. I won't go into details of that because it's uncomfy. So anyway, they could not conceive the way that everyone else is able to. And so they went through infertility, in vitro. They were even in the process of trying to adopt because nothing was working. So my mother, she decided that she was going to pray and fast. And during this time, while my parents were praying and fasting, my father actually had a dream. And in this dream, at the time, they were going to Brother Johnny Goder's church in Durham, North Carolina. And my dad said he was going down the hall at what's that conference called? It's not General Conference, East Coast Conference. He was going down the hall and he came to the stairs, and while he was going down the stairs, he saw my mom holding a little girl with black curly hair. And he said that for weeks he walked around like in a haze because it just felt so real, it stuck with him. So nights later, my mom and my dad are at church, and most of the time a dad will sit on the end, whichever end that may be. He sits on the end and she sits on the inside. Well, this particular time my mom happened to be on the end and my dad was on the inside of the pew. And so he was on the inside of the pew, and Pastor Goder, he was preaching up a storm, and my mom, she stood up to amen and raise her hands and all that good stuff to, get with the preaching. And she said she had her hands up like this, and she heard audibly, "Name her Faith." And my mom turned to look at my dad, and she said, "What did you say?" And he's like, "I didn't say anything." She's like, So she just kind of went back to what she was doing. She had her hands raised, and next thing she knew, she's at the front, in front of Pastor Goder, dancing up a storm. And he doesn't miss a beat and lays his hand on her. And everybody says they all knew that night she was going to be pregnant. And so, anyway, fast forward a couple months, and my mom, there was some sort of situation where she had to have blood drawn at work. Something happened and they had to check her out, and they found out that she was pregnant. And so, long story short, they named me Memory Faith. In memory of their faith, they were able to have a child. So that is her testimony, and while I am a part of her testimony, she is also a part of mine. In 2019, when she passed away, like I said, I made this promise to her that at any opportunity that I had to share her testimony, I would. And so I did my part just now. When you lose a parent, it's like this, it's really, it's not something I can really describe to you what that feels like, because for me, I had this overwhelming sense of peace. I missed her deeply. I still do. I still reach for my phone when I'm in my car on my way home, or, at any minor inconvenience. And I want to call her and tell her, what happened, or I want to chat while I drive. And she was my best friend. And so, I went through a lot in processing that. And, because I know her so well, when I come to something that, I need advice on, I know her well enough to know what she would say. And recently I came across one of her notes in her journals. She journaled like nobody's business. When she prayed, when she was talking to God, sermon notes, everything. She wrote it all down. And so in this particular notebook I found recently, she was making notes about the hands of the potter. The Lord is referenced as the potter and we are the clay. He molds and shapes us. And so she mentioned in this note, in the margin of this story, of this parable, I guess, that the main point about being on the potter's wheel, he molds and shapes and reshapes. And sometimes, I don't know if you've ever watched a potter doing clay or even participated in that yourself, but sometimes it gets jacked up and you got to put some water on it and squash it. And in this time, I felt squashed. I felt like I had to be remade in several different ways. Like, oh, nope, this isn't right. We gotta redo this or redo that. And so anyway, her note said that even though being on the potter's wheel is painful, and that, being changed and molded and shaped, sometimes it hurts, but his hand never leaves us. And that really ministered to me because in this time, his hand never left me, and I never felt like it did. And that's, something different that I don't know that everybody experiences that with a loss, but for me, I did. I always felt really connected with God because I couldn't do anything without him. Everything hurt, it was just like this. It was a great loss because she was right next door. And when I went places or did anything, she always was with me. And in her notes, she is still with me. And so I guess what I could say to close this out is, whether it be a loss or some great faith that you have to maintain in order for something to come to pass for you, that the potter's hand never has and never will leave you. He will be with you throughout whatever changes that may be. Whether it's, you're waiting for some promise to come to pass, like myself, or you are waiting on, a season to pass, or for something to come to fruition, these prayers that you've been praying for years, like my mom, that he is not only with you, but he is shaping you to be the best that you can be, and you will come out better than you went into it.